you live from Tennessee, from the east to the west. We are talking Cowboys everything. And you've just entered
the Cowboy Zone.
Welcome back to another episode of the Cowboy Zone. I'm your host, Marcus Jones, the Bluff City Cowboy, coming to you live from Memphis, Tennessee. And joining me shortly will be my co-host, Lambo, straight out of Johnson City, Tennessee. But until then, we have a special guest joining us tonight to talk to us about Hard Knocks, and as well as talk to us about her 53-man roster predictions that she put out in an article last week. Miss Rika Moves the Chains. How you doing?
I'm good, Marcus. How's it going?
I'm good. Thank you for joining us tonight at the last minute.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, last night, of course, I didn't get a chance to really watch Hard Knocks, and I just tried to think of who would be the best person I could reach out to who can give me a rundown on what happened, unfiltered, good and bad.
Completely unfiltered, yes.
And you were the first person I thought of.
All right.
Thank you again for joining. We really appreciate it. Got a lot of stuff to talk about tonight, guys. So
yes.
Before we get started, guys, make sure you like wherever you're watching. Also, make sure you share it to your personal page, share it to your favorite page as well. Be sure to keep the comments on fire as always, and we're sure to have a great show. And DJ Dog coming in saying best episode of Hard Knocks so far was last night.
I thought it was good.
You did? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, unfortunately,
good episode.
Yeah, the way my schedule's set up, Tuesdays and Wednesdays are my absolute busiest days. And normally I'm able to squeeze it in to watch it, but HBO just wasn't cooperating with me last night. And then today I just had zero time. So I'm completely behind.
All right. So episode 3, first of all, I've heard a lot of complaints about lack of drama. I think they're just not making it evident. I think you have to be caring enough, just like me, to see the drama going on Hard Knocks. So the episode started off, and they're talking about Isaac Alarcon, which made me so happy. As soon as it was done, I posted a short blog midweek, which you guys, if you read me, you guys know I never do that. But Isaac Alarcon has interested me since I read about him. You know, I kind of remembered like early 2020 hearing about, this Pathways program and some guy on the practice squad. But then when we didn't really have preseason or anything, it went out of my mind. So this spring, I started...
I'm coming back on my regular computer in a minute.
Okay. So this spring, I started looking at Alarcon. I knew that he was going to be a surprise because there wasn't a lot of tape available on him. He was out of Mexico. He played at the Monterey Institute of Technology. And the tape that was available is dubbed over Spanish. So I didn't understand what they were saying. And then he got a little bit of hate on social media. I didn't see a lot of posts, but even just one was enough to make me mad, because when fans found out that he would have both the American and the Mexican flag on the back of his helmet, they lost their rabid-ass minds.
And that's ridiculous.
It was ridiculous. And I think a lot of people didn't understand where he was coming from. That he was part of this program and he was representing another country. Some people were under the impression that he grew up here and maybe had family from Mexico, but that's not the case. He's from Mexico. The International Pathways program provides opportunities to athletes around the globe to come here and play American gridiron football and learn about the sport and hone in their skills, take it back to their country, and promote the sport there, promote our teams, promote American products and American companies. So they have you can apply for the program. Any athlete can. They choose a group to go to like a combine, and then every season one division gets to go to the combine and each team gets to pick a player. And I don't know in what order they choose. They don't make that real transparent. And the divisions are chosen at random. So when Alarcon was chosen by the Cowboys, he had to spend the first year on the practice squad. Those are the rules. Then at the end of the first year, you get to participate in the rookie mini camp, which he did. And then you get to compete for a roster spot. But if you don't make it, you can go to the practice squad for another year. And for those first 2 years, he does not count towards the 16-man cap on the practice squad. So if Alarcon does not make this roster, he will be on the practice squad, but we'll have a 17-man practice squad. Anyway, we got to see, his family, how proud they are of him, the work that he's putting in, and also his training. He had a really good game in Canton, not so good in Arizona. He's kind of up in the air. He's still developing, and we got to kind of see him work with Philbin. And when I really felt bad for Alarcon was towards the end of the episode in last Saturday's game with the Texans. And we were talking about this about an hour ago over on Boss's channel, that Ben DiNucci, being in that game, squandered opportunities for Isaac Alarcon and for the other players on the field, on the offense, who were fighting for a roster spot. Throwing those picks and limiting the time that those guys had on the field to show what they could do, Ben DiNucci not only screwed himself, he screwed those other players. And Isaac Alarcon's mom was visibly upset by that. And she should have been. She's proud of her son. She wants him to be successful. He's working very hard. And they're seeing him for the very first time on an American football field at AT&T Stadium in his Cowboys uniform live. And he got a lot of snaps, but not as many as he could have gotten if the offense had stayed on the field. So that's a bit of drama for me. And I think that storyline, if it doesn't carry forward on Hard Knocks, it needs to carry forward in Cowboys Nation, because it's ridiculous. And I said a few days ago, and I'm going to stand by it, that come next Tuesday, if Ben DiNucci is not a cut, if Mike McCarthy keeps this pet around, I will lose my mind. I am going to write a blog of all blogs. I am going to set the globe on fire. I am that mad about it. So there was that storyline going on. We saw Cooper return to practice, and he looked like he was doing very well. It wasn't good enough for him. That's great. And then one thing, though, that I had a huge question about, and there's a lot of good football minds in the chat tonight, so I want to know what everybody else thinks, because I really, for the life of me, can't figure it out, is there was a part of the episode, Bluff, where during practice, CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons were having a conversation over on the sideline about a play that they had just both been a part of. And for some reason, why was Micah Parsons guarding a slot receiver? Why was that even a thing? That's what I don't understand. I'm not debating, whether CD was right or if Micah Parsons needs to get better at this or better at that. I don't care about that. Why was Micah Parsons on the field guarding a slot receiver?
Well, I'll give a quick answer. And
I want to know.
Thank you so much for carrying the show while I worked out my technical difficulties. I can hear everything you were saying, but I had to put my mic on mute because I was getting an echo on my other computer. So thank you so much. Great information. I heard everything, so don't think I was ignoring you. So my guess would be, and I didn't watch the show, so I don't know the formation,
Yeah, they didn't show a lot of it, and I didn't watch practice, so I don't know. I just took what just from the context of the conversation they were having on the sideline, and and about how CD was saying, yeah, but where were you? And he was like, yeah, well, I was pushing you to the outside, and once I pushed you to the outside, my job was over. And I'm like, why were you guarding a slot receiver? What was he?
I
What
mean,
was he doing?
they could have been in a nickel, and they could have been on offense running like 10 personnel, which is 4 wide.
Mm-hmm.
And if that were the case, that would possibly push him to cover the slot.
Okay.
That's the only thing I could think of.
Because there
Or
was a picture that came out that showed them lined up against one another. But what I didn't know, because like I said, I didn't know if that picture preceded the conversation they were having. It was hard to, I don't know because I didn't see
Right.
the practice. But
Right.
I was just really confused about
Yeah.
why we didn't have one of the corners
Right.
against Lamb in practice.
Yeah. So without watching it, if they ran 4 wide, that means
Steve ran a quick out.
in a-
Micah said his responsibility was covered inside. George Edwards
yeah.
disagreed. Okay.
So if they were running 4 wide and the defense was in nickel, that means there was only 3 corners on the field with 2 linebackers, 2 safeties, 4 linemen. So if the offense ran 4 wide, that would have left the responsibility of the other receiver to the wheel linebacker, which would have probably been Micah Parsons in that situation.
Okay.
It's either that or they were running normal 11 personnel with 3 wide and the corner came on a blitz. It was one of those. It had to be one of those 2 things.
All right. Like I said, it seemed like maybe they were, lined up in front of each other when the play started, but I can't be 100% certain that the still photograph that I saw is what actually happened before that conversation, because I don't know the sequence of those events. But back to the show. So we saw that, and then and one of my favorite parts, just because it was sweet and because it was so interesting, there is a man, Bluff, and the people who watched the show who got to see it know this. There is a man who is in charge of the mailroom at the Star, who is a 4th generation Cowboys employee.
Wow.
His great grandfather worked in the mailroom. I'm guessing way back in the day. Then his grandfather, his father, Valley Ranch days, and now him. And he has become friends with Dak.
Yeah.
And so they play cards evidently, and I was like, dang, I want to play spades with them. It looked like so much fun. It was Micah and Zeke and the guy from the mailroom and Dak sitting around playing a game of spades, and I was like, man, I wish I had somebody to play spades with right now. That looks like so much fun. So that, and then we also got to but we got to see some from Trayvon Diggs and his mom. We got to see him FaceTime with his brother, and we got to see his little boy, who is a little firecracker. That kid is nuts.
I've seen people tweet about that. So what did he actually do on the show?
He the little boy? Okay, so at first they were at home. They were at Trayvon's house, and he has a beautiful red door on the front of his house and kind of a reddish orange. But so the little boy was showing, this is he was showing like some warm-ups and imitating Trayvon, imitating Uncle Steph, and then he was like, well, whose jersey are you going to wear? And the little boy says 4. And he's like, whose jersey is that? And he says, Patrick Mahomes. He says, no, who have you been waiting to meet? Patrick Mahomes. That just slayed me. It absolutely slayed me. But at the game last Saturday night, he was with the grandmother and some other family members, and he had the cutest little hat on, and he was yelling at his dad and calling him by his first name, Jay. It was funny. So
How
cute
old is
little
he?
kid.
How old like he was?
I don't. I'm sure they said his age, but I'm thinking he's probably 6
Okay.
in that area. I don't remember. I'm sure they said it, but I just didn't retain that.
Okay.
So, yeah,
All
he's
right.
here to see number 4, Pat Mahomes.
All right. Let me go through the comments real quick. The Lunatic, thank you for joining as always. See the comments lighting up.
Lunatic. See Matt Owen
Steven
down there helping me out.
Valdepina, I think I pronounced that right, but Steven looks like a new name. Thank you for joining. Jack Meeker, as always, thank you for coming
Yes,
in and
Jack.
giving us your great comments. Jay Tuck, appreciate you tuning in as well. Professor O, thank you. Victor Robles Jr., definitely make sure you follow Rika. Check out her blogs. I read everything she writes, so she puts out great stuff. DJ Dog, as always, thank you for your comments. I see we got
Yes.
Mendoza in here.
And you know what? And DJ defended me this morning on Skywalker Show, and I appreciate that. Thank you, DJ.
I did come in a little bit and catch that part.
Yeah,
It went off the
DJ
rails
had
when
to,
Jalen came up, didn't it?
it did, and DJ had to come in when I was talking to Will and let somebody know that yeah, she knows football. She doesn't come in here to flirt. So
Right.
thank you, DJ. I appreciate that.
All right, and we got Mac Blit 4. Thank you for letting me know about the echo. Hopefully it's gone now. It looks like a new name, so make sure you come back, continue to follow us, continue to subscribe. And let's see, Mark Cantor, definitely. Thank you for joining. Said he'll beat out Steel after the last game. I got screwed out of prediction. I'm sure you're talking about Isaac. Yeah, I heard you talk about this a little bit, Rika. Now that exemption, it goes for this year as well, right?
That's right. If he doesn't make the roster,
Right.
we can keep him on the practice squad, and he does not count towards our 16-man cap. So we'll actually get a 17-man practice squad.
Right. And I looked at the rules a little bit further as well, and I was going to talk about this once we got the 53-man roster. But they changed it this year. Normally, when you put a guy on an exemption like that, he's done for the year. It's a complete training year. This year, if the team decides that they want to give him a shot on the roster, they can rip up that international contract and he could become an actual player. But they'll lose the 17th spot, and then he'll be treated like any other practice squad guy where he could be poached by any team and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting, especially just looking at our tackle situation and guard situation. Yes. Will they keep him for another year on that, or will they get so desperate based off of how he played that they give him a chance?
You know, I think if we're gonna give him a chance at guard, I'm okay with that because I think that the best, and I'm with freaking Charlie Moffitt. I'm with Charlie Moffitt on this. The best swing tackle on this team is Zach Martin. If we lose a tackle, we need to slide Martin over, and bring in another guard.
Right.
And Alarcon is my choice there.
Yeah. And I like him because, first of all, he's a big guard, which is always an advantage, and he's nasty. I like a guy who's going to make sure he puts you in the ground and stand over you. That's the type of guard I want on my team. I was shocked to see him get played at guard when we first started preseason until I actually saw him play, and he has a guard mentality.
Right. I was under the impression that he would be playing tackle. That's what he did in Mexico, and that's how early this spring they had him listed on DallasCowboys.com on the roster, but they have since moved him.
Yeah.
And, they have since officially moved him.
William Coulter, thank you for joining as always. Let's see if we got any more questions in here. Questions or comments. Sadiqa Charles, thank you for joining.
Hey, Sadiqa. Hey, girl.
And Professor O says, based on what they did with Reggie and Rico, I'm leaning towards them stashing him again. Like I just said, I agree with that too. But if it gets desperate, and heaven forbid,
I feel like that's what will happen. So he's going to end up on the practice squad. But I hope, fingers crossed, I hope that we don't lose a tackle at all. But if we do lose a tackle, I hope the plan is to slide Martin down and then pull Alarcon off of the practice squad rather than using Steele or Nsekhe.
But heavens forbid we lose the center and a tackle, more than likely he's getting called up, because then you got a
Oh yeah.
full line
Then
shift.
you got a problem.
Right.
You got big problems.
And Jack Mika said, yeah, he said in his interview that he is a guard, but when the
Yeah.
time comes, you go where they need you at. He tried that
Right.
last year. It didn't last, but what, 10 games?
Mm,
All right.
yeah.
So anything else from Hard Knocks? Normally when they have this part of Hard Knocks, they cover the game a little bit more.
Hmm.
Did
And
they
they
go
did.
into the inside of the game, and in particular the DiNucci interceptions? Like, did they really highlight that any?
They did. Um, when the game ended is kind of about when the episode ended.
Okay.
But you didn't really see. I guess the way that I felt this, the reason that I felt this way since Saturday, and I was so mad at DiNucci for squandering the opportunities of the others, is
Yeah.
because when he gets to the sideline, he's got McCarthy and everybody else, and they're like, "Oh, that's okay. Here's what you need to do," and he's
Uh-huh.
getting all of this personal coaching and personal attention, and maybe it's just in the editing.
Yeah.
And Jay Tuck, I think if he's still in the chat, I know that he was at the game and he may have had his eye on it to see is anybody else getting that much attention. It just seems
Mm-hmm.
like DiNucci gets an awful lot of attention, especially from McCarthy. But like it could be editing, so I haven't written it in a blog or posted it on social media too much because it's kind of a perception thing.
Yeah.
But it does seem like DiNucci is some kind of a pet, and I haven't figured out
Yeah.
why other than just that hometown connection
Right.
from
Somebody
Western
calling the favor
Pennsylvania.
on that one.
Mhm. Yeah.
And
It's
Professor O, yeah,
it's a
he
favor.
says Tank
Yes,
coaching
I
a good
forgot
long
about that.
sideline.
Thank you. Yeah, they showed a lot of DeMarcus Lawrence on the sideline and
Mm-hmm.
talking to Kamara and helping him out during the game. Yeah, McCarthy frustrated after an interception.
Yeah.
We got to see a lot of DeMarcus Lawrence's leadership in this episode
That's good to hear.
during the game segment. Yeah, and that was really nice to see.
And Sadiqa says he still is a goner. I hope
He
so.
better be. He
I hope
better be.
so.
Because
All right.
I do not want to have that tantrum, but I'll have it. I mean, you got to do what you got to do. If I have
Yeah.
to have a tantrum over DiNucci, then that's the way this is going to go down.
Yeah, there should be a fan wide outrage if DiNucci
Right.
gets a roster spot this year.
And then when I'm calling Matt Owen for bail money because I've been arrested for my protest at the Star,
Yeah.
it's going to be ridiculous.
And Matt O says you got to see Zeke coach up Hardy as well.
Yes, and and the Hardy thing.
That's Jaquan Hardy, the undrafted free agent.
Yeah, that kid.
So what did he do?
So yeah, I can't believe I forgot about that. So during the Arizona game, one of the plays, he got knocked out, and his eyesight is apparently very bad.
Oh my! At a running back position?
Extremely bad. And he had goggles that he was wearing under the helmet during college, but he chose to wear contacts. So he gets knocked to the ground, falls face forward.
Yeah.
One of the contacts comes out and is stuck to the inside of the helmet. And then he doesn't take himself out because he knows he has to be in for every play that he possibly can. This is his shot. But then when they finally get him over to the sideline, he's like, "I'm 1-1." And the coach is like, "What are you talking about?" And he's telling the coach and he's telling Zeke and everybody's in Pollard, "Yeah, and I'm 1-1." And they're like, "What is 1-1?" He's like, "I got one contact in and one contact out." So later in the week, in the running back room, and they're like, "And what is this 1-1? Where did you get that?" He's like, "I guess I just made it up." He's a little, he's young. He makes some bad decisions like wearing contacts instead of goggles and not taking yourself out of the game when the contact falls out. I don't necessarily think he's stupid. I think he was just overly excited and wanting to take advantage of every opportunity and did not think it through clearly. They talked to him about it. And with Dowdle now on
IR.
IR. You know, Hardy could have a shot at not being cut next Tuesday. I don't know.
That's possible.
I know that Dowdle went to IR, but had a little bit of a busy day, so I don't know what the extent is or what kind of injury or what the projection is for that.
Well,
So
it doesn't matter. If a player goes in IR during the preseason, he's automatically out.
that's right. I forgot about that. So yeah.
Yeah. The only way we could
So
get him
Hardy could very well be the one who makes the practice squad. And I hope he keeps his goggles on.
Yeah.
Instead of his contacts.
Yeah. Tap into his inner Eric Dickerson. Like somebody making fun of him about Eric Dickerson.
Yeah, and then they were asking him about that during practice, and he's like, do you even know who that is? And he's like, and somebody else, they just had him confused. That poor kid. He had an episode. Hardy definitely had an episode, but he's a likable kid. He's very funny.
That's good. One last thing before we move off Hard Knocks.
Okay.
One thing I did catch was the amazing drone shots that they did of the spot.
Oh, so cool, right?
I do videography, and I have a couple of drones. Never in my wildest dream, because I imagine maneuvering my drone the way they did.
Yes, and when they went through that Ford truck, when they went in one window and out the other, that was cool. It was really cool. It was good. It was good. And I'm thinking I could do that, and then I'm like, yeah, right. I can't even walk down a flight of stairs.
Drones are very hard to maneuver like that. And when I looked at it, I thought they may have been speeding it up until they showed the view of the big screen, and the screen was going at a normal speed. So I was like, they're not even speeding this up. Somebody's really moving that drone that fast. Yeah, that drone pilot was elite.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, the drone shots were excellent.
Yeah, those were some great shots. Now one more thing. I heard this thing about Jerry Jones in a helicopter.
Oh my gosh. Jerry is so extra. So Jerry goes out and gets in the helicopter, right, to head to AT&T Stadium on Saturday because Jerry can't be bothered to sit in traffic for 20 minutes. They get halfway to the stadium, and the pilot turns around and says, "Sir, can we turn around and go get Steven?" And Jerry says, "Sure we can." Why not start the day fucked up? Because we can't even get everybody on the helicopter that's supposed to be on here. If this is any indication of how the day is going to go. So they go back, they get Steven, they go back, then they get to the stadium, and Jerry leans forward and tells that pilot, "Go ahead and go around the stadium." Yeah.
He knows how to milk
it. Be seen. He knows how to milk it. He wants to be seen. So that was especially funny. And that's where the title of the blog that I dropped last night came from. Sure we can. Let's go ahead and start the day off.
Yeah, I definitely got to read that. And if you guys haven't already, make sure you find that. And we'll let Rika give all the information at the end of the episode. But I see we got the second half of the Cowboy Zone joining us right now. So let me go ahead and bring him in.
Lambo!
Hey. What's going on? Sorry I'm late, y'all.
That's all right.
All right. So Lambo, we just got through talking about all the hard knock stuff and talking a little bit about the game last week. So I guess now we'll kind of go into our 53-man rosters. Talking about that with 30 minutes. So we'll probably be with you guys another 30 minutes or so. So if you guys haven't done so already, make sure you like and make sure you share. And also get in these comments and let us know what you guys think about our 53-man roster that we came up with. Lambo, I tweaked it a little bit because I was kind of short on time, so I couldn't make a screen for both of ours. So I already had mine up, so you can just kind of talk about what you had different from what I have.
Yeah.
All right. And Todd Corey looks like a new name. So thank you for joining us. Make sure wherever you are, you subscribe. I'm Bluff City Cowboys, Lambo's Cowboys, y'all. Code the board. Thank you for joining as always. Definitely appreciate your support. And Jerry, I gotta go back and watch this one. Jerry was throwing the Colts out in rare fashion, huh?
Yeah. Jerry was in rare form.
That's what I'm gonna do tonight.
Love me some Jerry.
As soon as the show ends, I'm gonna go watch it. I've
Now,
been waiting all
Matt
day.
says he has his 53 set. Matt, I'm telling you, I tried my best to kind of maneuver with the COVID stuff and the IR, everything. A bunch of stuff changed today. So I kind of switched a lot of stuff around. And I just can't figure this corner safety position out. Corner safety, defensive end.
Yeah. You know what? Cole DeBoard has a comment down here. He says, I have a confession. I haven't watched maybe even 10 minutes total of Cowboys preseason. You know what, Cole? Until I decided to be a blogger, I didn't watch preseason either. I thought it was boring. Don't worry about it.
I love it. There's nothing wrong with that. All right, so guys, let's get into it real quick. So we're about to go through our 53-man roster projections. If you haven't done so already, Rika wrote a great article where she put her 53-man roster projections out. So make sure you guys go find her blog and check that out also. So before we get into that, do I have it? First of all, I want to talk about the guys who are not included on the 53-man roster as of right now. So we got a couple of different categories of guys who won't be listed, and I'll kind of give some background as to why they won't be. So first of all, Rika kind of talked about this one already. The international program with Isaac Arlacon. We talked about that already. It's a special program. You get players from other countries a chance to live the American football dream. And if the team decides not to keep him on the roster, they make a special allocation for him on the practice squad so that he doesn't get poached. He gets another year to learn. So for that reason, I don't think he makes the 53, but he'll still be here, guaranteed. And Jeff, you did give me some pointers on the 53 earlier, and I did make a change to it. So thank you for that. And once I get to that point, I'll be sure to bring it up. And DJ Dog says COVID has me worried at the safety spot. We'll talk about that in a minute as well, because that's up next. And the COVID list. So the rules changed with the COVID list. Players who are on the COVID list do not count towards the 53-man roster. Earlier this morning, CeeDee Lamb was on the list, but word is he'll come off very soon. Also, Israel Mukwambu was on the list, and it sounds like he came off the list today. I had to do some digging on the COVID rules because it's just so many moving parts. Apparently, if a guy is vaccinated, he gets he only has to be out for 48 hours. If he's gone for 48 hours, he comes back, he tests negative, he can come back to the team. So it looks like Mukwambu fell under that designation. Reports are CeeDee Lamb is fully vaccinated, so he will as well. It sounds like from the interviews today that Carlos Watkins has COVID, so he's going to be gone for at least a week. It also sounds like Connor Williams also tested positive for COVID, so he'll be out another week. He won't count towards the 53-man roster, but he should be back in time for week one. And also DeMonte KZ tested positive. And so those three guys tested positive. And it sounds like Malik Hooker is a close contact person on the COVID list. And according to reports, Malik Hooker is only taking one of his shots, so he isn't fully vaccinated. And because of that reason, he has to be away from the team for at least 5 days. So it's a lot to digest right there with all of that. But it sounds like we open up at least 3 roster spots on the 53, taking us into Tuesday, maybe 4, depending on how they work around this Malik Hooker thing. I wouldn't be shocked to see them kind of screw around with that to get him just past the 5 days and allow us to use that spot to kind of keep a guy available. What do you guys think about that in terms of like us playing around with this COVID list stuff? You think we're going to see some other guys pop up on the list that are guaranteed to be on the team? You think they're going to play
Brandon?
around with it at all?
I don't know.
I guess so somebody on the COVID list doesn't count towards the 53.
No, if you're on the COVID list, you don't count plus
So
53.
let's say, okay, so this player has COVID, so he doesn't, and he was gonna make the 53. Let's say
Yeah.
CeeDee Lamb,
Yeah.
and he was gonna make the 53, but now we don't have to count him next Tuesday because he's on the COVID list.
Right.
So that means, so just want to make sure I understand. So that means we could take somebody, that we like maybe kind of weren't sure about. Like there was that player and we really want to keep him, but we don't have enough room and we don't want anybody to claim him off of waivers. So then we could keep him on the 53 and then when CeeDee Lamb comes off of that COVID list, then we can move him to our practice squad if we don't fill up the practice squad.
Yeah, that's how it works. But if it's a rookie, they still have to get cut and they still have to clear waivers.
Okay, so they'll still have to clear waivers. They can't just get cut and re-signed.
Right.
Okay.
But the thing about it is the waiver list is the most active around the 53-man roster cut deadline. Once so-and-so team chooses their 53,
they're not gonna be
right. It would be unlikely that they cut a guy that they just decided on to try to pick up another guy.
I'm having trouble I can't believe that the NFL is allowing that to happen because even though it's probably going to work in our favor,
it can.
If other teams were doing it, I'd be pissed. I'd be so mad. You're stashing players because so-and-so got COVID.
Yep.
That's a bunch of crap.
I'm hoping it gives a guy like Anai or Carter just a little bit of a longer look.
Yes. That's who I was thinking of. I was thinking of Carter. I was thinking of Anai.
And those
are guys we could keep around an extra week or so and then slide them on over.
And Jeff says Lamb will have COVID for 2 weeks. I think actually Lamb came off the list today. I think he was on the list Tuesday. His 48 hours passed, and I think him and Mukwamu both came off. I'm sorry, Monday. I think they both came off today, or they expect Lamb to come off tomorrow. So just something we got to keep track of. They say the team is 93% fully vaccinated. So just check to see what guys go on the list, how long they stay on. That'll give you a pretty clear idea of who's vaccinated and who's not on the team. And Matt O said, they did say 4 or 5 of the guys on the list were vaccinated. Dan Quinn was vaccinated. Watkins was vaccinated and he still got COVID. I don't think he had any real.
So these are probably going to be they're probably more likely than not going to be very short, mild cases that it shouldn't keep anybody out of Tampa Bay, hopefully.
Yeah. If Watkins is fully vaccinated, I think he just has to wait 5 days and then come back and have 2 negative tests within 48 hours. So it's like a 7-day window if you're vaccinated. And if you're not, it's like 14 days.
Okay.
But if you have a close contact with someone who's contracted COVID, if you're vaccinated, it's 48 hours. If you're not vaccinated, it's 5 days. So DJ Dog says, so the guy on the list not fully vaccinated is Hooker. As of right now, he's not fully vaccinated, correct? The article I read said he took his first COVID shot when he joined the team. So I think you have to wait like 3 weeks before you take your second one. So he should be taking his second shot either this week or in the next couple of days. And Cole DeBart says Connor Williams scheduled to start this season. I'm sure you heard those reports. No team is Dallas is not gonna let Connor Williams go right now unless the deal blows them away.
Yeah, we need the depth.
We definitely
don't have anybody
because as of right now, he's our backup center too.
Yeah.
As much as we all hate it, you can't let him go if he's a borderline starting guard and your backup center.
Right. And it's especially frustrating because I felt like last season when we lost all of our starters, I felt like the silver lining to that cloud was that we were going to get to take these second and third string guys, these undrafted free agents, and play them almost a full season of regular game NFL snaps and get them all of this experience and have this tremendous depth at every position. And it just didn't work out that way. And I'm mad about it.
Yeah. Cole DeBard asked a good question. He says, does this give the coaching staff a little bit more time to look at guys? It doesn't give them more time to look at guys because according to the rules, if you have COVID or you are close contact, they have to keep a room in the stadium separate where those guys immediately get almost like putting the hazmat suit, escorted to the room, and then they have to come with like a bubble cart and drive them to their homes, and they have to stay quarantined. So they don't get to look at them.
I think he means like the people that get to fill those spots by the guys that are on the.
That's a good point. You're right. That's definitely a good point. So yeah. Jack Mika says if they want to do IR after day one, that will give them space. The problem with that is the guys have to be on the 53-man roster before they can move them to IR. and we'll talk about that one next as well. And Matt O, the trick about 53 is not being on the roster week one, because if you're on someone's roster week one, their salary is guaranteed for a veteran. That's a great point.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we got. And Cole says he heard Brady was around Mike Vrabel days before he tested positive. Sure hope he's healthy for this beat down.
I don't. I don't want him there.
I'm sure, according to the league, Tom Brady is immune to COVID. He could have taken a call directly to the face, and Tom Brady's not missing a day of practice.
Yeah, it's kind of like the same thing with LeBron. LeBron treatment. Brady will get that same NFL treatment.
Yep, exactly.
He'll be playing week one.
Yeah. And Jack Mika talks about Gallimore. That's definitely one of those things we'll talk about in a minute. And with Carlos Watkins on the COVID list, that gives us another spot on in the defensive line room where now instead of having two guys take up a spot, you only have one, and then you can take them off. All right, DJ Dog brings up if we want a tackle or a backup quarterback that is any good, we have to trade for one. Good offensive tackles and quarterbacks don't hit the waiver wire. I mean, that's 100% right.
Except for Josh Dobbs.
But there aren't that many. Yeah. Lava, what'd you say again? Tennessee?
I'm a Josh Dobbs fan. And Steelers just so happen to have him behind Haskins and Rudolph and Ben. So I doubt they're going to keep 4. I think he should be higher than that. But they have a lot of depth right now at their backup quarterback position.
Yeah. I would love to see that.
Yeah, I would like to see it. I think he could compete for the backup spot.
So, Rika, what are your thoughts about the backup quarterback position right now before we go into our story?
First of all, I'm going to say this. On my 53-man list, I didn't keep just one. I kept 2. And everybody's like, you can't have 2. You know what? I kept 2 for a dang good reason, and the reason is COVID.
Yeah.
I think, there are just a couple spots on your team where if you don't have the guy, and especially with them doing testing right before the games, and remember what happened with Des Bryant last year with the testing right before the game, and we go into an out-of-town stadium, an out-of-town field, and you got Cooper Rush at number 2, and they start doing the rapid test, and they're like, oh, Cooper Rush has COVID. Guess what?
Yep.
He's out. And then we get into the middle of the second quarter, and Dak Prescott ends up in concussion protocol. Where you at?
Yep.
We need more than one. Cedric Wilson?
Exactly. At that point, yeah.
COVID makes things a little bit more difficult because that test is going to come down right before every game. And even if you're at home, I'm not sure what time they give the test, but you've only got 90 minutes before the start of the game to move somebody off of the practice squad.
Yeah.
So depending on when that test is given and when the result is ready, you could be at home and not be able to bring in your practice squad quarterback. And be in a world of hurt if your other quarterback gets hurt or gets a concussion or anything. So quarterback is an important position, and I kept an extra right there.
I did too.
Yeah. I think we all did.
Yeah, I usually don't.
Also, I wasn't too pleased with them today or yesterday. I'm sorry, today's Wednesday, right? Yeah. Yesterday, getting rid of the kicker punter who was there for less than a week and I don't know his name. I liked that because, again, Anger or Zerline gets popped on a COVID test 20 minutes before the game starts.
Yep.
And you've got one guy who can do both positions. So he's only taking up one roster spot. And he can kind of, double up for you there. So I was kind of like, that was kind of a good deal. He's only taking up one roster spot. And you end up with a kicker or a punter that ends up with COVID and not able to play that game. And you've got a guy that can do both. So you're covering two positions with one backup. And so I thought it was a great idea when they signed him. We saw him kick last Saturday, right? Was it last Saturday? And yeah, I thought, he was good. He was serviceable. So keep him around. But I have a thing though with kickers. I have a thing with kickers. I think I have PTSD from 2019. I think Brett Maher just completely gave me PTSD.
He's available, by the way.
No, he's not.
PTSD is post-traumatic steel disorder.
He got cut by the Saints. If you want to revisit that.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I will be breaking kneecaps at the airport. I swear to God.
All right, Rika, we got quite a few comments about people saying, asking us where we found you at, and
I think she found.
Where did you find me?
Somebody put that comment up there. Looks like you got
in a good way. It was a good way.
Oh, okay.
I like this lady. Where did y'all find her at? Okay. It was a good one. It wasn't the typical stuff you see when you hear a woman talking about cowboy sports. So before we move on, let people know where they can find you at, and we'll do it again at the end.
You can find me at RikaMovesTheChains.com. I'm a blogger. I write every week. You can also follow me on Twitter at ChainsMoving. And I'm on Facebook. First name Rika Moves, last name The Chains. And actually starting in 10 days?
10 days.
10 days. Every Saturday night, I'll be with these guys. We'll be on this channel. We'll be on Brandon's channel. We'll be on the Dallas Cowboys Uncensored channel. Yeah, we have a new show, Keeping Up with the Joneses, and we'll be live every Saturday at 8 p.m. Central.
Yeah.
So make sure to subscribe, ring that notification bell. Even if you don't like me, ring the bell anyway, because you can't troll me if you don't know when I'm on.
Exactly.
Good tip.
Right. We take good and bad followings.
Absolutely.
You want to tell us we suck? Put it in the comments and we'll put it up.
Do it. I love it when that happens.
It still helps the algorithm, so go ahead.
Exactly. All right, let me get back to the list of the guys who don't count towards the 53. Of course, we talked about injured reserve, and it hurt a lot of Cowboys Nation to hear that Rico Dowdle went on injured reserve this week. Unfortunately, we talked about this before. When a guy goes on injured reserve during the preseason, his season is done. So he's out for the season. He's going to get a chance to come back, restart fresh next year. So he's still around, but we won't get to see him anymore. Same thing with Sean McKeon, the tight end who showed a lot of promise during the preseason. More than likely, that's kind of a sign that either Jarwin or Schultz won't be here next year, and McKeon can just step right into their role. All right, the last spot that I have to go to is the PUP list. And this is another one of those things that can be confusing for Cowboys fans because people hear about guys going on the PUP all the time. So basically, we have Tristan Hill and Chauncey Golston on our PUP list. So the way the PUP list works if you have a guy who has not had a single practice during the preseason or training camp, they come in injured. If they stay on the PUP list the entire training camp, they can immediately go to what's called the reserve PUP list, and they miss the first 6 weeks. And I know people are asking me about Terrell Basham, who got hurt. He's not eligible for that PUP list. If you've practiced during training camp, you can't go on the PUP list that you can miss the first 6 weeks. So if we want to keep a Basham, he has to be on the 53-man roster. But Tristan Hill and Chauncey Golston both didn't practice. Somebody asked me about Josh Ball as well because he went out very early in training camp. If you practice a minute during training camp, you cannot go on the PUP list to miss the first 6 weeks.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
I just learned something.
And I forgot to put Reggie Robinson up there too. He's also on our list.
Yeah.
And Matt O saying he's watching Philly cuts for Nick Mullins.
That would be bad.
Mississippi State quarterback. And I forgot about Saywar as well. He's on our list also.
Yeah.
All right. So now that we've got all that out of the way, you guys have seen the list of guys, some of the names that you know who won't count towards our 53-man roster, final roster next Tuesday. So now we'll go to our list of what we have estimated to make the 53. All right, so right now we have 24 offensive players. Now, we talked about this a few minutes ago, Rika, and you talked about keeping 2 backup quarterbacks. Now, I definitely agree with you, and Lambo agrees with you as well. But when I had to put CD Lamb back on, I had to find a spot, and I made a post 2 days ago talking about Carlos Watkins. I don't know if you guys saw it or not. I said, what if we were to cut him, and since he's a vested veteran, he doesn't have to go through waivers. So maybe the team can kind of do a wink and a nod and say, look, we're going to cut you, quote unquote, sit at home for 24 hours, and after waivers clear, we'll sign you right back. I think they can do the same thing with how did I just go blank on his name? The bad Cooper Rush.
Yeah, because he is a veteran.
He's a 4-year veteran. So
yes,
technically they could cut him, tell him, look, sit at home, you're in Dallas, don't take any phone calls for 24 hours. Once we clear our guys out, we're bringing you right back. So technically he's not on the list, but I think he's gonna be here.
Yeah.
So next we'll go to, because Malik Turner's going to IR more than likely. So that's gonna open up, and Josh Ball is going to IR as well. So that'll be 2 IR spots that'll open up something on the offensive side. All right, let's go to running back, Rika. And William Cote asked about wide receivers. We'll get to that in a minute, William. First of all, Malik Turner's going to IR, so you can kind of cancel that one out. He just has to be there for a day. Now, running back. Rika, how many running backs did you have? I know you wrote your article, I
3.
believe. You wrote your article pre-Rico Dowdle, right?
Yes, and I had Dowdle as my number 3. But you know what?
Yeah.
I only had
This is it gets tricky right here.
It does. I would rather keep Dowdle, but since we can't, instead of using Hardy, maybe
Hardy's going to clear.
I would rather add in.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather keep Hardy on the practice squad, not make him part of the 53. Just keep 2 running backs and add in another guard or another tackle above what I had on my list.
Okay.
So mine was a little similar to that.
A big part of my problem in making this list is because there are so many backups at guard and tackle
Right.
that I don't think deserve a roster spot, and it leaves us thin. And I'm looking at it, but I'm having a hard time writing down a name because I just don't like any of them.
That's a good point.
I don't want Terrence Steele on the field. I don't want Nseki on the field. You know, I don't want these guys on the field.
But that's what we
So honestly, I would keep Alarcon on the practice squad and let him develop some more. Because he doesn't count towards the total, so that gives us 17.
Right.
And I guess I would put somebody in here. I don't know.
All right.
Pull that list up again.
We'll move through it one at a time.
Yeah.
And Matt O says McKeon hasn't been added to IR yet. I think he'll make the 53 go on IR. Then Sprinkle gets. So you think
Sprinkle gets re-signed? Yeah.
So
I put Sprinkle on my list, but that was my thought at the time. Was I had McKeon, and I thought, I don't know what's going to happen with him. I don't know about the extent of his injury. I'm not sure. Honestly, I'm good with either Sprinkle or McKeon. Either one. I'm not gonna make a lot of noise. But I could see them doing that, choosing McKeon over Sprinkle and moving him to IR. That makes sense.
So Matt, correct me if I'm wrong. You're saying they're gonna do with Sprinkle, like I just said, they're gonna do a rush. You cut them for a day, and then once you move McKeon to IR, you pick them right back up. Just let me know if that's kind of what you're thinking. Is that what you were saying, Rika?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's what Matt meant. And then Sprinkle gets re-signed. Yes. Yeah. I think that's what Matt meant.
Yeah. While we're still on running backs, I did have Dowdle too as the 3 until the injury, and I was laughing because Jack's comment and Matt's comment. I remember I told you, was it yesterday or something? I said with Dowdle out, I would like to see Ralston be that third back. I like that. I like what he can do on special teams. He can block extremely well, and I feel like he could also even do some short yardage work. So I really like Nick Ralston. That'd be cool to see him maybe slide in there.
And let me say this before we move on. The third running back spot is not important for the running back position. It's purely special teams. If heaven forbid Zeke got hurt, they're going to go call up Shady McCoy or Frank Gore or Adrian Peterson, one of these old backs at home, and they're going to bring them right in to come and play on this team. They're not going to rely on Tony Pollard and whoever you got on the practice squad. So I just think the third running back is definitely for special teams purposes. And to go to William Coulter's question about why so many wide receivers special teams, that's exactly why I had so many receivers, because I feel like you're going to need one of these positions to supplement what you lose on special teams. And it could be safety or corner, and we'll get to that later. So good question by Jack. Do you guys think Ralston has a snowball's chance in hell to get a 53-man roster spot?
If I had to throw it into a percentage, I'd say he's got about a 25% chance.
What about you, Rika?
Yeah, about 25%. That was, that third running back that I had and, had him in my mind marked for special teams was Dowdle.
Yeah.
And I just don't know that Hardy or Ralston, I don't know, maybe instead of putting them in there, you pick up an extra wide receiver, maybe.
Yeah.
If you've got special teams on your mind, you got a couple wide receivers in there, I think who might be a little bit better. So.
All right, guys, keep the comments coming. We definitely love to hear you guys' input on what we have up here right now. Todd Corey says he hopes Ralston and Kamara both make the final roster.
I would like that, actually.
I like Kamara. Yeah. I really like Kamara a whole lot.
I love him. I mean, I talked about this last year. You got a kid that's 240, runs a 4.4. He's very raw, but if you just tell him to go see ball, get ball, he can be very good at that. I don't know what his special teams looks like, which when you got a height, weight, speed guy like that, special teams has to be very important. And I don't think he's good enough to beat a couple of the guys who might be in front of him. And Matt O, great point. He played fullback, tight end, and linebacker. He was built for special teams.
I can't get that special teams tackle out of my head from that game. He blasted that guy.
Yeah, he did. So yeah, you never know. You never know what can happen. So guys, in the comments, since we got everybody saying they like Ralston, who's the guy you take off this list to make a spot for him? This is where it gets interesting at. Everybody can say they love a player, but somebody's got to go to make room for him. And let's move to tight end.
Steele looks like a good name to take off the list.
She's still got post-traumatic Steele disorder.
I do.
I hate to tell you.
I mean, there's only one list that Steele is on, and it's not a good one. Yeah.
I hate to burst your bubble, Rika. There's no way Terrence Steele doesn't make this roster.
I know it.
If we kept Chaz Green for like 5 years, there's no way Terrence Steele can pick off in one.
Man, I still have nightmares about Chaz Green.
Oh yeah,
I was on Prozac for a minute because of Chaz Green.
Or nightmares about Claiborne.
Oh,
rushing off the edge.
All right, so we go to the tight end position. I see a couple of people saying they would take Sprinkle off.
Can't do that. Oh,
so tight end position, I think we all kind of say is either Sprinkle or McKeon, and then Sprinkle comes back after McKeon goes on IR. Do you guys think there's any chance we kind of stick with two tight ends?
You know what? I think that it could happen because we have such good depth at wide receiver. We could go 4 wide on a lot of plays and cut out that tight end if we wanted to.
It's a possibility.
Yeah. I mean, Noah Brown and Cedric Wilson on any other team could easily be wide receiver 3. So
yeah,
I wouldn't.
And Noah Brown could probably do the
mad.
same thing.
I wouldn't be mad at it. Yeah, I wouldn't be mad at it if they went with 2 tight ends, and because of the wide receiver depth to make room for someone else.
Yeah. And I like this comment by Matt O says Terrence Steele plays like Terrence Aluminum.
He does.
We got Boss Cowboy in the building. I saw you were live earlier. I couldn't really get in and watch, so thank you for tuning in and watching us.
Yeah.
Mendoza says Semi.
Generational practice squad player.
Yeah. Matt O says Turner easily. I think Turner has a sponsor on special teams. Mm-hmm. And I think he looked good enough in the preseason.
I think Turner makes it goes to IR and then they slide somebody else in.
Right.
But I like Turner. I want Turner on the roster.
All right, guys, let's go back to the list again real quick. So we go to offense and we go to center. So do we all kind of agree Tyler B is going to be the only true center here?
Yep.
If you guys think Farniok makes the roster?
My thing with Farniok, and I did have him on my list, is because, and the only upside to Farniok is there's 2. One, he can snap the ball, and Connor Williams cannot. And also, he's versatile. He can also play guard.
Yeah.
So you get 2 backups for one guy right there with Farniok.
Okay.
So I had him down on the list. Do I think he's great? No. Would I rather have somebody else? Yes.
Yeah.
But he is what we've got, and those are two good upsides, that he can snap the ball and he can play more than one position. And as a backup, I like a guy that's versatile that we can use in different places.
Okay. So let me ask this question, and it's kind of moving ahead a little bit.
Okay.
So we know Josh Ball is going to IR. That's a definite. Malik Turner is more than likely going to IR. So if we all agree that Cooper Rush is going to be brought back, who does that second open spot go to? Does it go to Farniok? Does it go to another position? What do you guys think about that?
Ralston.
You think it goes to Ralston?
Yeah, I like him. We're gonna speak it into existence.
Rika, what do you think? Josh Ball is going to IR, so that opens up one spot. Malik Turner's probably going to IR too, so that opens up a second one.
So, yeah, Ralston. Ralston's good.
Okay, so you would go Ralston over Farniok?
I think Farniok can make it to the practice squad, but that's
I'm definitely make it to the practice squad
because if they're willing to keep trying Connor Williams at center and him look as bad as he has over Farniok, that's not saying anything too great about him right now.
I think I want Farniok over Ralston. I think I want Farniok over Ralston. I do not like Connor Williams at center. I really, really don't. And I guess, and here's my thing: if Farniok is at center, but he's flanked by Connor Williams, Zach Martin, Tyron Smith, and Lyle Collins, then I don't mind it too much. If we lose one of those guys, then I don't want to put Farniok at center.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think that we can overcome how bad Farniok is if we surround him with better players. If we were to lose Biotish after we lost a starting guard or a starting tackle, then that would make the situation worse.
Yeah. And Todd Corey asked the question, Ball on IR. We haven't
high
seen
ankle sprain.
Yeah, that he's out roughly 6 weeks. He's probably missed about 3 of them just through training camp. So he probably has another at least 2 more weeks before he could come back. And the NFL rules changed this year. You can bring back an unlimited amount of players after 3 weeks. So if we start them off on IR, we could have them back by week 4.
That works.
Yeah. Jack Meeker says McGovern should be our emergency center. We haven't seen him take a snap during the offseason, so
I know. That's what I was kind of thinking, that he would I would like to see him start left guard, and if he needs to, bump back over to center and then put Williams out to left guard.
Exactly.
And then I'm wondering if we've seen how bad Connor Williams has looked at center, why have they not, or are they not thinking highly enough of Farniok to have got him out there early?
What'll be interesting on this next preseason game is Farniok going to play the entire game at center? Is he going to play all 4 quarters? Because right now he's our only backup center.
That's true.
So are we going to see Connor Williams play some center? Are they going to try somebody else out in the last game to see if they can do it? It's going to be
I think who we see against Jacksonville will give us a clue about what will happen on Tuesday with those spots.
You guys think Connor Williams may get the first quarter at center?
I could see something like that, but Farniok's definitely going to get
I don't think we need to see any more of Connor Williams at center.
Could you imagine?
We've seen enough of that.
I think a Connor Williams Ben DiNucci exchange is enough to keep me up at night. That just sounds doomed from the beginning.
I'd rather watch Chad Hutchinson play quarterback again. And that was terrible.
Hey, Todd Corey, you say that jokingly, but the way Connor Williams looked, you probably could be right.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, definitely.
We could probably try to go get Joe Looney if it wasn't for stupid Jason Garrett. He's always messing things up.
Joe Looney
Jason
retired.
Garrett, I know. Yeah, and now he can't come out of retirement unless he goes back to the Giants.
Right.
See, Jason
right.
Garrett has always been the reason why we can't have nice things. Between Jason Garrett and Rowdy, we can't have anything nice on this team.
I knew we would get a Rowdy reference before the night was over.
Yeah.
You and Professor O and the mascot.
There's just something creepy about a grown man willing to put on a costume and run around a football stadium.
Have you ever gone to the rally days at the stadium?
No.
You haven't?
Absolutely not.
I'm shocked you ever known just to go and kick Rowdy in the crotch or something.
I told Charlie and Eric a while back, man, I want to see Rowdy in a cage match with the King from the Burger King commercials because they both creep me out, and I'd like to see at least one of them get the crap beat out of themselves. And those big old ugly heads with those weird noses, that just needs to go away. That shouldn't even be a thing.
Matt O says we forgot to talk about. He said he didn't like Rowdy on Hard Knocks. Did he say that? Really?
Yeah, he did.
Did he say mascots in general or just
Dak
Rowdy?
Dak doesn't like mascots, and he doesn't like Rowdy.
Oh,
he also doesn't like haunted houses.
Okay,
and
I agree with that.
Yeah, what? Because you don't know when that guy with the chainsaw is gonna put an actual blade thing on there and come. See,
yeah. I love haunted houses, but I always think about that.
I never thought about that until Dak said it. Now I can never go back to another haunted house. I got a new phobia.
Yeah, that's gonna happen one day. There's gonna be some psychos like, why not I apply for this job at a haunted house and bring a real chainsaw with me?
Yeah.
And people are gonna be sitting there laughing and walking by as I'm really murdering somebody, and then he just walks out the back.
If I knew that Rowdy was coming to the haunted house, I'd be the guy applying for the job holding the chainsaw.
You know, I tell my girlfriend this and she thinks I'm full of crap. I have the fight or flee. I'm a fighter. And if somebody jumps out at me, my reaction is to
hit him.
Hit him, right. And she thinks I'm joking about that. But I don't want to go to a haunted house and hit some 12-year-old in the chest because he jumps out at me with a fake axe. I can't control that.
Oh.
I got to plug up.
When I was in college, a local sorority did a haunted house, and one of the football players actually did that to a sorority girl, and he put her in a hospital for 3 days.
Oh.
After I heard that, I said I would never go to a haunted house because that could have easily been me.
Yeah. Ooh.
But yeah, that was awful. Keith M. looks like a new name, so thank you for joining. Did Connor play? Was that the second game he played in and had the muffled snaps? No, that wasn't Houston game.
No, that was Arizona.
That was Arizona. I don't remember him playing center against Houston. I remember a lot of Farniok that game, so I don't know if we saw him at center that game, Keith. I mean, he always looks decent at guard, but we're talking about center position right now. All right, guys, let's go back to the offensive 53. Let's go to this tackle position. We're at 1 hour, 13 minutes. All right, so let's go to the tackle spot. I know, Rika, how you feel about Terrence Steele. How do you feel about Ty Nsekhe? Do you think there's any chance he doesn't make our 53?
I think that Ty Nsekhe has had 65 football jobs in 10 years for a reason, because he's lousy at what he does.
Okay.
He was a terrible free agency signing. And don't want him. I don't want Steele, and I don't want Nsekhe, and it's hard for me to pick one to be on this roster because I both think they're horrible. And and my thing is, I have Ball on my list, and we haven't seen anything out of him. Yeah. But I figure, you know what? At least with Ball, you got a 50-50 shot. He's going to be good or he's going to be bad. I already know that Steele and Nsekhe are not good at what they do.
Right.
I know we've got to have one, and I guess if we're going to have one of those two, I'll take Terrence Steele.
He's got he's younger.
He is younger, and he doesn't have the injury issues Nsekhe's had. And I wonder, and I don't know anything concrete, I haven't heard anything, but when you've been on that many teams in the NFL and in the arena in such a short time span, it makes me wonder if you're a locker room problem.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, people who have had 18 jobs in 10 years, it's for a reason.
You're definitely
it's for a personality disorder reason. So his resume is like a game of hot potato. I mean, he's been, he gets signed and then he gets released and then he's back to the arena, and then the arena league gets rid of him, so he goes to a different arena team, and then an NFL team picks him up, and then he's there for a month, and then he's at a different NFL team, then he's back to it's crazy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I guess the Terrence Steele thing is the devil I know beats the devil I don't. I
But
don't especially like the devil I got, but I guess I'll keep him.
as you guys do see, I did include Brandon Knight as a guard, so that lets you
I
know what I
noticed
thought
that.
about his performance during the preseason.
Yeah.
You know, interesting. Terrence Steele played left tackle for the first time that I've noticed against Houston. And he actually was the best looking backup left tackle. He was actually the best looking left tackle we had out there. Honestly. I'm not saying that to try to sway your judgment. It's crazy. He looked better at left tackle than right tackle. I don't know how to explain that.
Yeah. And last year I felt bad for bad-mouthing Steele so much because he was an undrafted free agent and he didn't get a preseason.
Yeah.
I felt kind of bad about it. But dang, he had this whole off season to, get a trainer, work with somebody. He could have gone over to Dak's house. Dak had open practice at his house every day. He could have got some work in and made some improvements. And so far through this preseason, I haven't seen that Terrence still has improved at all.
And I will say this because I know a lot of us fans get caught up in that. If you've had a chance to really be around NFL players, not a lot of them really work on their craft in the offseason. Like, we all want to assume all these guys are football 24/7 and they take the offseason to get better. A lot of these guys don't.
They don't.
It's a miracle if they come to camp in shape. That's why you hear about so many guys that can't even pass basic conditioning tests that I could probably go out there and pass at 300 pounds right now out of shape.
I think Lyle Collins learned the hard way last season about that, and he definitely got to work this off season.
Exactly. That's definitely something people need to be aware of. These guys aren't just living and breathing football like we would hope them to be doing.
Man, if Jerry was writing me checks, I'd be living and breathing whatever he told me to.
I know. This is all about perspective.
I don't know how many times I tweeted out to Jerry to give me a job for just $50,000 a year and I'll move out there. That's good enough for me.
I'm telling you, man, Cowboy Dale should make this roster. I don't see a single reason why not.
He's got the sidearm throwdown.
Yeah. Take that tree out, man.
I can do as good as Danichi.
Yeah. Hey, Matto, thank you for joining us. Appreciate it, man. Always appreciate your support.
I'm Matt. Thank you.
And we
I'll
swap
talk to you tomorrow.
We swap out Professor O for Geechee. Thank you for joining us, tuning in. Appreciate your support. Before we move on, I was fortunate enough, I guess, I had a couple of chances to talk to David Irvin before he got cut from the team. And he told me out of his own mouth he only had one offseason where he worked out at all. Wow. I was floored. I'm like, even the season he had like 8 tackles and 8 sacks in 8 games, he didn't work out that offseason. The offseason he said he worked out in was the one where he took the over-the-counter supplements and got suspended. That was the only season he ever thought he ever worked out his whole life.
It's crazy because he could have been really good if he took football serious.
I know.
He could have been really good, man.
I could tell a bunch of stories about him, but I don't want to be that guy.
but you're gonna like tell me in Lambo later, right?
Oh yeah, I'll let you guys know. So Connor said Keith says Connor had 22 snaps at center in the Houston game. That's a good point. If I didn't notice him, that means he had to be okay. I got that game saved. I'll definitely go back and rewatch it again to see. Yeah, Jeff was there with me. He can vouch. Jeff probably has as many David Irvin stories as I do. David I'll leave it alone. We'll talk off the air. All right, back to the show. Going back to the offense. So now we go to the last position at wide receiver. Now, of course, I said the first 5 spots are pretty much secure. Cedric Wilson and Noah Brown have both had great off seasons. Cedric Wilson has really surprised me. I know if you guys remember, I was saying he may have a chance to not be on this team. I had to backtrack off that after the first preseason game. He looked great inside. He looked great outside. Same thing for Noah Brown. He played inside, outside as well. Had a couple of circus catches against Houston. to really show he's more than just a blocker. And then we get down to these last two spots. Now, I got Malik Turner on here, but I could put an asterisk because he's going on IR more than likely. Somebody mentioned he thinks he can get cut out right. I think that was Professor O. And then we got Semi Fehoko, which is our 6th round pick, I believe.
Yeah.
And we've heard talk that a lot of coaches around the league are kind of watching his progressions and they'd be more than happy to take him from us. So what do you guys think about the wide receiver position? Let me ask you this question, Rika, first. Do you think there's any chance we go into the season with just 5 wide receivers?
There's too much talent there. I don't know.
Yeah. I think that there is a chance that we do, but see, I'm on the fence with Simi, and I've said a few times it may come down to this week in practice. I don't think that we've seen the best of Simi, because Simi hasn't been on the field with 4. I want to see what Simi does with Dak before I make a decision on Simi. I mean, I've watched a lot of football. I've got a pretty good football mind, but I'll be honest, I have a hard time sometimes, especially in these preseason games. I've had a hard time deciding, was that on Simi or was that on whoever was taking the snaps?
That's a good point.
I'd like to see Simi with 4, at least in practice. I'm pretty sure I was excited about Simi, and I'm pretty sure that he is a good wide receiver. But there's been some ugly moments in a few of these preseason games, especially in Canton. So I just want to see. I just need to see a little bit more, just one practice, and I can make up my mind. And then I'm going to say, no, we're definitely going in with 6 wide receivers, and Malik Turner will be on IR, and Simi will be number 6.
Okay.
And in that case, when Malik comes back, I don't know. I don't know who to cut. Maybe Terrence Steele.
Do you think there's a chance they just cut Malik outright and hope nobody picks him up?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think that Malik did very well, even with crappy quarterbacks. So
yeah, he's looked better than Simi.
We're gonna be whoever we choose back there at number 6. Is probably going to move up to number 4 or 5 next year, because I don't think that this team signs Michael Gallup.
That's true.
If Cedric Wilson and Noah Brown were not as talented as they are, I would be hollering to keep Gallup.
Yeah.
But I don't think that he's going to demand a lot of money, and we're not going to be able to pay it. I don't think that we get Gallup next year. So in that case,
and for
I think we want to hold on to Malik Turner, and we want to make this a kind of a tryout year for Simi.
Yeah.
Give him some special teams work and just kind of see what he can do.
Yeah. And for the people who think we're going to get a discount on Michael Gallup, you can go look at the contract that Robbie Anderson just signed with Carolina, I believe.
Massive
2 years, $29 million for a number 2 receiver who's
30 years old, I believe now.
30 years old, right?
Yeah.
So if he got that much, you know where Michael Gallup's
the only way that I think that we sign Michael Gallup is if Amari Cooper has more feet problems throughout this season, and it becomes clear that it's going to be a habitual injury situation.
And just Coop maybe.
And CD shows that he is WR1 and makes him feel more comfortable about that too, maybe.
Yeah.
Yes. And I love Amari Cooper. Absolutely love him. And I wrote a blog about Cooper and Lamb and that back and forth, which really seems to only exist on social media and not really on the practice field or in the locker room. How they're 2 different types of players. Cooper is very calculated. He's very controlled. He's very low key and calm. And I think at the end of this season, you're going to see between Lamb and Cooper 2 sets of stats that are very, very close. There's not going to be a huge disparity in their stats, but everybody's going to have the impression that Lamb is the better wide receiver because Lamb is going to make the bigger plays. He's going to do the stuff that's exciting and flashy and sexy. He's going to do what you remember. Cooper's going to grind it out with nice routes and 10 and 15-yard runs.
Yeah.
That's what Cooper's going to do. My concern with Cooper and the ankle and he has some foot problems is because while he may start out the season strong, towards the end of the season, he may be having trouble. And there is going to be a spot. Let me see. Hold on. I'm going to tell you exactly. I'm not going to misquote myself.
Yeah.
I'm going to look at this. Where's that page in my book of magic here?
Yeah, do your thing.
Yeah, from week 13 to week 16, we are going to face 1, 2, 3, 4, and I guess, you know what, even to week 17, 13 through 17, we're going to face 5 teams, and all but one of them had top 10 pass defenses last year. We're going to face, and top 15 run defenses. We're going to face a juggernaut of really tough defenses at the very tail end of this season. And we need Amari Cooper in the best shape he can possibly be in. And I'm worried with the ankle and the foot problems that he may not be in that shape. And I hope he is.
Now, 2 of those are Washington, right?
Yeah, 2 of those are Washington. They were number 2 against the pass, so we need our route runner. We've got the Saints and we've got the Cardinals, and the only one in there I'm not sweating is the Giants, and because I think everybody on their team is retired. I'm not positive. I'm going to have to check. I'm not really the Giants. The Giants are cracking me up. They're supplying entertainment to me on the daily. So I'm not worried about that game, but those other 4 in there, especially 2 of them division games against Washington, and we get swept again by them, and I'm going to be furious. So
yeah,
I'd like for Cooper to be in his best shape, but I think if he's not, it's going to impact us, and when it impacts us, then I haven't looked at the contract numbers, but that may end up being something that we have to see if we can get out of and maybe pay Gallup.
Yeah, because Jeff brought the question up, what if Coop takes a discount to keep the trio together? If I'm not mistaken, Coop's contract, his cap hit is $22 million next year. And I believe if we cut him outright, we would save 12 or 14. That's without looking at it, but I'm almost certain I'm close. I think the bulk of the guarantees are this year.
So cutting him outright to make room for Gallup is something that could happen, but I don't think it's going to happen. Cooper's the better receiver.
Yeah.
I'm saying it's only going to happen if Cooper has some serious injury problems. And also if we have a great season, because if we have a great season, we're going to have one of those later draft picks in that first round. If the shit blows up like it did last year and we're looking at a top 10 pick, then we may go ahead and get rid of Gallup because we know we're going to be able to get, a powerhouse wideout. But that's going to play into that decision is where in the draft are we going to be able to get a wide receiver to replace Michael Gallup?
And I just pulled up Coop's contract.
Should we want to do that? But like I said, there's a great deal of talent with Cedric Wilson and Noah Brown too, so you got that.
And then there's always going to be some guys who can be legitimate number 2s on this team. If CD steps up to be the number 1, that you could probably get at a discount.
Yeah.
And I just pulled up Coop's contract. His cap hit is $22 million next year, and if we cut him outright, we would save 16. So, and if we did a June 1 cut, we would save almost 20.
Yeah, and that's enough to pay Michael Gallup. I don't think that's how it will go unless Cooper has some injuries late in the season. that affect us. And I wouldn't be worried about it at all if the schedule was set up differently and those tough defenses were spread out a little bit more.
Yeah.
But we could potentially lose 4 out of 5 games late in the season if we don't have Cooper.
Yeah, and Todd Corey says Gallup will get 14 mil per next year. He's gonna get that now. Robbie Anderson already set his market this year, so it's 14 mil no matter when you sign him, honestly, or more.
Yeah.
So all you can do is hope for an average season and hope that price drops a little bit, or he likes it here enough to take a $2 or $3 million haircut. But we're looking at 14 mil. And Geechee says Coop is your classic old school car CDs, the Lambo.
That's exactly right.
That's a good analysis.
It is.
And Gallup's your muscle car. All right, guys, we're at an hour, 30 minutes. We're going to go to the defense next. This is where I had a lot of my problems at. So everybody who's still here, make sure you keep coming in the comments. Make sure you share this so that we can get other people's feedback on this as well.
Yes.
So now we go to the defense, and I know people gonna hate what I have up here because you know it's coming. So let's start first of all with the defensive end position, and then we'll go to defensive tackle where the hate will come in at. So we got 1, 2, 3. We got 6.
No hate from me. I like Hamilton.
I like Hamilton too.
We'll start with the defensive ends to let everybody process that so they can start getting in the comments about it. So defensive end, I got Basham. More than likely, he's going to go to IR, so that'll open up a spot after the next day. But I added Anai and Carter to the list. Carter, mainly for special teams. He was one of our best special teams at the end of the year. And Bradley Anai just for that potential. He showed a couple of flashes during preseason.
Yeah.
Stuff that we all saw in college, hoping we could see live action. So what do you guys think about the defensive end spot?
Obviously Lawrence Gregory and Armstrong. I think you're right about Basham going to IR.
Uh-huh.
I think we keep Carter.
Okay.
I don't think that we keep Anai.
Okay.
And I like Anai, and he didn't get a fair shake last year, but I think he's done well enough in these preseason games that he is probably going to get claimed off of waivers. Yeah. And with Basham on IR, I think they bring up Kamara.
Okay. So you think we go into the 53 with 5 defensive ends, and then Basham goes to IR, and then Kamara's kind of the 5th guy brought up from the practice squad?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So keep a pin in that and let me know if we take Anai off this list, where do you put another player at? Do you add a 5th defensive tackle?
Yeah, I've got 5.
Okay. All right. So Lambo, we'll get your thoughts on defensive end, and then we'll go to defensive tackle next.
I like this list right here, really.
Okay.
Because I was trying to find, when I was trying to put my 53 together, I was trying to find ways to make space to be able to have Anai and Carter in there. And with everything we've talked about, this, does make space for those 2 guys. So I like that. Wouldn't be mad to see Kamara make there at all. That'd be great. I know we did talk about a lot of, or I had talked about a lot about considering 5 defensive tackles. But I gotta say, Hamilton, if it's gonna be 4, I'm with you on Hamilton over Bahana. At least from what I've seen this preseason. I've seen a lot people mistakenly saying
Bohanna made plays where it was actually Hamilton.
Yeah. Many times, even myself, I got myself in that trap a few times. I was like, oh, rookie is looking. Hold on, wait, that's not Bohanna. That's Hamilton. He showed up more to me. I like him over Bahana right now.
Yeah.
Bahana.
Now, the reason, and I'm with you, Rika, the reason I'm able to add a Nye in here is because I have Malik Hooker on the COVID list right now.
Yeah.
So if Hooker was here, that would be the spot I would take a position from, and it would be a Nye.
Mm-hmm.
Carter showed me enough as well, and Carter gives you so much more on special teams. He showed it last year. I did a special team show about a month ago, and I pointed out the fact that when I looked at the games, Bradley and I played like 20% of special teams the first 4 weeks. After week 4, he didn't play a snap the rest of the season, defense or special teams. Rondell Carter, on the opposite of that, he went to the Colts for the first 9 weeks. When he came back to Dallas week 10, he played almost 50% of the special teams for the rest of the year. So clearly somebody liked him on special teams. And I think that gives him the edge. All right, so we go to defensive tackle now. And we just kind of talked a little bit about Bohanna. And I'm going to throw this in. If we cut Bohanna, he's clearing waivers. Teams are not foaming at the mouth for 340-pound defensive tackles. I know people don't agree with me. That age of the NFL is over. I had the same arguments about Snacks Harrison last year, and I told somebody, Snacks Harrison is going to somebody's practice squad because teams are not going to waste a roster spot for a 340-pound defensive tackle. And people jumped on me for that. And the next day he signed with Seattle, literally, and didn't play a snap of football for the Seahawks. I put Bohanna in that same category. He can be around. He can be on the practice squad. If we need to bring him up, we can. But I just think in terms of just what I saw
think
on the field,
if we lost Urban, maybe we would bring in Bohanna just because of his size.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Bohanna can go to the practice squad. He can stay over there.
Now Gallimore goes to IR the next day. Bohanna may be the guy they bring up unless somebody drops a defensive tackle that we happen to like during the final cuts.
Mm-hmm.
That could possibly happen because I really don't know what's out there in terms of defensive tackles around the league.
Yeah, as far as Tristan Hill goes, I just don't see him, and it's an unfortunate story. And if he hadn't jackassed around in his first season and spent so much time on the healthy inactive list for being in trouble and just not doing his job and not taking it seriously, then there would be something to like about him. But you didn't have anything out of him in year 1. He did well last season until he got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And then being hurt through training camp, you got a whole new coaching staff, and I don't see them wanting to keep him around. He just kind of ruined an opportunity. Maybe somebody will pick him up.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe somebody that's desperate for a defensive tackle that they can get on the cheap.
Well, maybe we can call up our good friend Marinelli in Oakland and work out some 6th-round pick trade for him.
Yeah.
Now, the beauty of Tristan Hill being on the PUP list, we could actually milk this all the way till week 9 before we have to make a decision on him. So he could be out for 6 weeks or 9 weeks. That gives us a lot of time to check out our other D tackles to see if it's even worth bringing him back to the team.
Right, because Watkins has surprised me. That was another free agency signing that I didn't like, because I'm like, you know what? You got the 31st worst ranked run defense, and you need some defensive tackles. So who do you go sign? You go sign the guy that the 32nd ranked run defense didn't want. That doesn't make any sense.
It makes perfect sense, right? Perfect sense.
But he's, I don't think he's great, but he is better than what I had expected him to be.
Yeah.
Right now, though, Hamilton and Osa Odigizua just are, running my life. I love them.
Yeah.
They're the best. They're my favorites.
Mine too.
I feel about Osa like Mike McCarthy feels about Ben DiNucci.
Danucci. He can do no wrong.
That's right.
I just
And
like
Todd,
saying Odigizua.
Odigizua. It's fun, right?
Yep.
and Todd, I see your comment. We'll get to that when we get to safeties. All right, so we go to linebackers. Rika, I don't remember exactly what you had, but I believe you had Francis, but no, you had Gifford as a sixth linebacker, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right?
Yeah.
I had
And
Gifford too.
I had Gifford there for some, for special teams along with Cox
Yeah.
probably, and in the event that we lose Leighton Vander Esch, because I figure it's gonna happen more likely
Yeah.
than not.
You mean the likelihood? Because
Yeah.
it's very likely to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Lambo, you had Gifford on your list for the same reason. You think you need somebody for special teams and to fill in for Leighton?
Yeah, basically. Just a little bit extra depth. I still liked his potential. I finally got to see him play in the preseason a little bit, which was nice.
Jack, I'm not taking the bait.
Yeah,
I'm not taking
Jack Meeker.
I don't remember where I went short to make that happen, but
yeah, let me see if I can pull it up real quick.
It was somewhere, but not sure.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You only had you only had three safeties. I'm sorry. That's where you went short at.
Okay. That's because I knew. Well, Mukwamo didn't count towards the list, though, does he? Or does he have to count towards the list?
If he's back, he does.
Okay. I know that's what I was thinking initially when I did it. Is Mukwamo wasn't going to have to count towards the list.
Yeah.
If he is counting, then yeah, scratch Gifford.
Yeah, Mendoza is always kind of bashing him as a linebacker, so he thinks that's where you get the sixth linebacker from. All right, so now we go to the safety position, and this one and corner were very difficult for me. We talk about this quite a bit. So we talked about why Malik Hooker's not here. He'll be here after the 53. But as of right now, that opens up another spot. And I just had to find a way to slide Mukwamo in here. Like,
yeah,
the kid has shown me so much playing nickel corner, free safety, strong safety, special teams. He just looks too good to pass up on, even though he technically gives you the same thing Curse gives you. So, Rika, what does your safety position look like? And I know you probably had Hooker in there before all the COVID stuff came up.
Yeah. I had 4, and I had Wilson, KZ, Curse, and Hooker.
Okay.
I didn't have Mukwamo, but I wanted him.
Yeah.
I wanted him though. So,
and
yeah, defense was tough for me. There were a lot of players that I wanted.
Yeah. So, Todd, Corey, I'll go back to your question. I hope Dallas moves on from Thompson. This morning,
I agree, Todd.
I actually had Thompson on my list. I had 5 safeties, and I took a nine off. But then I talked to my guy, Jeff, and he brought up the point. Same thing I talked about with Cooper Rush and with Jeremy Sprinkle. Thompson is a vested safety. Nobody's going to touch him if he goes to free agency. So we could technically cut him, see how things look the next day, and then possibly bring him back. I just feel like he has a sponsor in that special teams room. He's getting way too many chances to play on defense and be out there to not make this roster unless one of these guys like a Curse really steps up and fills his spot on special teams.
See, I've been wondering, guys, if maybe I'm just a little bit jaded against Thompson, because I felt like last year when we weren't getting the views of training camp, we weren't seeing what was going on, but Nolan and company had come out, oh, Darian Thompson, he's going to have a breakout year. He's going to be so good. And I was expecting to see something so exciting. And then all I saw was a big pile of garbage. and they kept Donovan Wilson on the bench for way too long instead of bringing him in. So maybe I'm just not seeing him clearly because I'm still a little salty about that situation. We kind of got sold a bill of goods by Mike Nolan, which isn't Darian Thompson's fault, but it happened, and I'm cheesed off about it.
Yeah. And Todd Corey brings up another good point that Wilson is dealing with a groin injury right now, and those things can linger. There may be a chance he goes on IR next week.
And remember, Bliv, I told you guys way back a few months ago that my surprise roster cut was going to be Donovan Wilson. Because he did not put in the work in the offseason when the rest of them really were, because they didn't want to have another year like last year. And Wilson was not at the start. He was not working out with the team. He missed part of the which was it? Was it OTAs or
OTAs?
He missed some time in there, and I wasn't okay with that. I don't know how Dan Quinn feels about it or the conversations they've had in private. But for me, I don't know. He's a really good player, but I'm worried that he's got some stuff going on that's going to prohibit him from doing what he was doing at the end of last season. And if that's the case, cut ties with him early. Get him out the way.
All right. Let me ask you this question, Lambo. So Hooker comes back. We got 5 safeties. If you had to make the choice, if Mukwamu gets cut, somebody's picking him up.
I'm not getting rid of Mukwamu.
Okay. Mukwamu or Curse? You keep him over Curse? I mean, they're basically the same guy.
I'm going to keep him over Curse because I like Curse. Well, both of them have good size, so that's good. You're getting your big safety back there either way with versatility. Mukwamu, the 6'4", he played cornerback last year. We're looking at a guy that's making the switch over to safety that went late in the draft, and he's already excelling at it to the point where PFF just ranked him as the best rated rookie safety in the entire NFL. It's extremely impressive to me, and the guy hasn't even had – I mean, he's been here how long? So I feel like the ceiling – there's just so much room for him right now to keep progressing. He's already doing so well right now with the limited time he's been here and making the switch from corner. Like, it's pretty impressive.
This is the year to keep those rookies who are gonna make mistakes, but maybe come out in 22 and 23 and have a great year. I felt that way for a long time. That's why I wasn't mad at Hard Knocks. I felt like, I don't care if it's a distraction. Let's get it out of the way right now. Because with a defense this young, with this many rookies, it's going to be hard to go deep in the playoffs. So get things like Hard Knocks out of the way. Get some of these rookie mistakes and first years out of the way, because I don't see any reason why 2022 we're not going to be a top 5 defense.
I agree.
So keep him instead of that veteran that you've got on that 1-year contract. He's going to be cheaper for 4 good years. And he's going to be excellent. So
And like you said, I mean, he's been doing great out of the slot. I mean, he's been in the box. He's been in free. Like, he's So,
you're going to get more mistakes out of him this year than you would have out of Curse, but then that's going to pay off for you in the coming 4 years.
Yeah, he could be our starter next year.
Whereas you may not have Curse the next 4 years. You may not be able to afford to keep him.
That's true. Because Curse only has like 100,000 guaranteed. So that's in NFL money. That's basically nothing.
And he grew up a Cowboys fan. So, it's a good story. I like it.
And Jack Mika says, make Cox a rover. Wilson has to go on IR. We've had that debate before. I would consider playing him a little bit, but not like a rover. Maybe curl flat type stuff, but yeah. And Todd Corey says, Wilson's style is violent in nature. It's like a missile that's good and bad. Definitely when you talk about injuries, that can be bad. And Todd Corey also says Fossil loves Thompson. He does contribute on special teams, but is a liability in coverage. Like I talk about all the time, special teams is very important to these guys.
Yeah,
Kinda
and
like
when Bones is gonna have to make a choice, he's
Mhm.
the way I see it. You can have Thompson or you can have Goodwin, but you can't have both.
I was
Right.
exactly what it was I was that was exactly what I was gonna say. I was gonna say, we already got one of those with Goodwin. That's not good
Yeah.
in
Right.
coverage, but it's great on special teams.
Mhm.
Because I just think every special teams coach gets 5 guys. Like, these are your 5 that you ride with nonstop. I think you got Goodwin. I think you got Brown. I think you got Armstrong. Those are 3. So those last 2 spots, those could be anywhere. That could be Cox at linebacker. It could be Curse. It could be Sprinkle. So some of these guys that we're talking about, they're really on the bubble. And if they don't have that Fossil sponsorship, they could be out the door. And Jeff says, I think Curse can do what Thompson does, though. That's true. He could. And everybody's talking about cornerbacks a little bit, so we can go to the corner position and close this thing out.
Yeah.
So, cornerback position, I got 7. By far the toughest decision to make in terms of who to cut, and I really couldn't cut any of them. So, Lambo, we'll go to you first. You had these
tough.
7.
Yeah.
Who would you cut / trade or whatever if you had to choose one guy?
Well, we talked about Anthony Brown some, but he's actually looked better than Jordan Lewis.
Yeah.
So far at least throughout this preseason. It would for me right now. It would be between. I know Jordan just signed a contract.
They could cut him and
how much?
They would break even almost.
Right. So we're gaining with Brown, what, close to 4 million or something like that?
Something
3.
Yeah.
3. So it just depends on how they look at it. I'm like between the two of them, really.
Yep.
If I'm getting rid of one, it's between those two.
Okay. Before I go to you, Rika, follow-up question. If you had to choose between one of these corners or Mukwamu, are you cutting a corner or are you cutting Mukwamu? If you were one player away from setting your roster, and it has to be in the secondary. Lambo, what you got? I know it's a tough decision.
Oh, I'm Brown's out of here. I'm gonna save me
Okay.
3 million ish, and I'm gonna have my safety of the future, and I'm not gonna lose anything when Brown's gone because there's a capable young guy in there that's gonna play the same level he's playing anyway. So
now, Rika, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, on your 53, you had Goodwin cut. Am I right?
I did.
Okay,
I did have Goodwin cut because I wanted to make room over on my defensive end list for Rondell Carter.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like Rondell Carter was a better value than Goodwin because Carter can also play.
He can give you some pass rush.
He can play. Yeah, he can play defensive tackle too.
Yeah, he can. Good point.
And he plays special teams.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be the better value than CJ Goodwin, who only plays special teams as a corner. True. That's all he does. However, I agree with Limbo in that if you were going to cut one of these guys that's on your list right now, Anthony Brown is the one I would cut. And my thoughts on Anthony Brown have been, and since the draft, that he would start this season, but he would not be the starter by the end of the season. And the reason for that is because Kelvin Joseph only had about 15 games in college. So I thought, you know what, they're going to keep Anthony Brown around. They're going to let Kelvin Joseph get some games under his belt, and then we're going to trade him away. So I would say by the bye week that Anthony Brown wasn't going to be your starter anyway. Yeah. So if I had to get rid of one, I guess go ahead and get rid of Brown. I'm a little worried about Joseph, just lack of experience. Mm-hmm. But I don't mind that too much because I felt like from the beginning that if Kelvin Joseph had had more games in college than what he did, that he would have been in that first round draft talk with Surtain and JC. and we probably wouldn't have got him. I think we got him when we did because of the lack of experience. So, you take a discount there.
Yeah. And Teflon Breeze says AB is Jason Voorhees. He just keeps coming back.
He's right.
Yeah. Yeah, and for you guys that follow the Cowboy Zone, I said this back in like April or May.
Because he's got a chip on his shoulder.
If Anthony Brown would just look back.
Don't he?
That's all he's got to do. That's all that I don't like about him. If he would just look back every once in a while, I would feel differently about Anthony Brown. But he's had a long time to figure out how to turn his head, and he doesn't do it.
Was it him that tattooed the chip on his shoulder? It was Brown, wasn't it? Yeah.
That was I don't know why I think
it's working because he ain't going nowhere.
Yeah. But yeah, for the people who follow the Cowboy Zone, I said this in May. The only way Brown stays on this team is if he's our number 2. If he's anything lower than that, there's no reason to justify keeping him. And they've kept him at number 2 corner pretty much the whole offseason. So I think it's going to be hard to get rid of him. I'm right there with you guys, though. I think he's a progress stopper, like somebody said in the comments. Dallas has historically played young corners early, going back to Dwayne Goodrich, even though he got in a bunch of trouble. He started the season off. Go back to Anthony Brown as a 6th-round pick in 2016. The guys we took in 2017, Trayvon Diggs last year. Young corners play on this team. And I just feel like at some point, I don't think it's going to be the bye week, Rika. I think week 2, you're going to see a lot of boss man.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or
that
right.
Works for me. I'm glad. I like that.
Yeah, Taiwan.
I absolutely like that. Yeah. But I figured back then, I thought Joseph's going to be tough because he doesn't have a lot of game experience. So it's going to be a situation probably where Brown starts. He's the starter at the beginning of the season, but he loses that starter
by midseason. And Todd Corey makes a good point.
Didn't expect Wright, though, to be as good as he is. I was really cheesed off about that Wright pick. I was having a meltdown.
I was too.
I think the neighbors probably thought there was something wrong with me. I mean, I was losing my mind over that Wright pick. But now I'm like, oh yeah, Nahshon Wright, love that guy.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah. And Todd Corey says Wright would make more plays than Brown. Wright definitely has a knack for getting his hands on the ball, which is something Brown doesn't.
Risky, but at least you're moving forward.
Right.
Exactly. And this is the year to risk that stuff, like I said, because I think that we can win this division easily, but this defense is so young, it's going to be tough to get deep in the playoffs. So let's go ahead and risk and get some experience under their belts. Because, and I was listening just 8 days ago to Barry Church. And he said that he thinks that this defense by the end of the season is going to be top 5. I don't know. I hate to disagree with Barry Church, but man, I don't think he's seeing that right.
He's drinking that Cowboys podcasters Kool-Aid because he's.
I think we'll
finish this 12.
Defense, that's what I thought. I had us like 12 to 16 in that range, and I was going to be really happy with that. Top 5? Dang. I don't know about that.
I think all we got to be is middle of the pack to have a great season.
I think you're right. I think you're absolutely
right. Healthy Dak, that is.
Yeah.
Jack Meeker with the early prediction. And that's a good point because I was just about to say
torched by Brady bench week 2. I like that, Jack. Yeah.
You could say Wright could probably go out there and give up 7 catches for 100 yards. There's nothing I've seen from Brown that says he's not as likely to do the same thing. But at least I know Wright has the ability to get his hands on the ball and make a play on it. I haven't seen Wright with that ability yet.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and Mendoza says Wright with an offseason to bulk up and learn. Again, young corners get early shots in Dallas. I wouldn't be shocked to see Wright leapfrog Boss Man and Brown. It's just one of those things. You just never know who it's going to be, but one of these young guys is going to definitely get an early opportunity, in my opinion. All right, guys. So that's pretty much it in terms of 53-man roster breakdown. I'm sure this is going to probably change quite a bit as the time goes. I'm trying to do a quick scan of the list to see if there's anything I want to talk about with it. So we talked about Basham will probably go on IR, and that'll bring room for Hooker. And Gallimore going on IR. When Gallimore goes on IR, well, I just remember we got Carlos Watkins coming back, so that'll take care of that spot. Is there anything I missed on here?
I don't think so.
Okay, Lambo. So Rika says she has Goodwin off the list. Do you think there's any chance that we have Goodwin off the list and we pick up an extra linebacker?
Is Fossil in the house? I say he's going to keep his special teams guy around.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Before we go, Maurice Kennedy, how high up the depth chart do you plan on seeing him week 1? You think he's our starting slot, Rika?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
I think he starts over Lewis.
He should be.
Okay. Yeah. So now that makes me think, going back to this list, I almost think if Lewis is not starting, the 2 young guys leapfrog him. So now I have Lewis at 3 right now. He could easily be 6. So if that's the case, is it worth letting him go and just breaking even on the salary, or keeping him around at $4 million?
Well, like Rika said earlier, with the quarterback situation and the COVID stuff, and I mean, it's just springing up on people out of nowhere. And you work in these position groups and practices around the other cornerbacks. One of them gets it. Next thing you know, 2 of them got it. That I would keep the depth.
That's true. Because we don't want to see Goodwin on defense as much as we love him on special.
Yeah.
Right.
And another interesting note, do we have any other corners on the team other than these 7? Because I can't think of another corner I've seen in a game other than these 7 corners.
I feel like I've seen someone. I can't remember the name. It was
is it Robinson? The other Robinson?
Rashard Robinson?
Yeah. Is he a safety? I think Rashard Robinson's a safety.
Yeah, I think they moved him to safety.
So, yeah, if that's the case, I can't even think of another corner I've seen in a preseason game. So we don't even have guys on the practice squad unless they just pick up some guy just to pick them up.
Chris Weststreet, come on down.
Yeah, Todd Corey says, probably
Deontay Burton, right? Is that
has he played?
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah.
Mendoza. Deontay.
Okay, Deontay Burton.
Yeah.
But I think if we got 16.
Yeah, Rashard Robinson was cut.
Yeah.
And it was Reggie that they've got on IR. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's a stash.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So, okay. I keep getting those Robinsons confused.
Yeah, I do too.
I don't talk about them a whole lot because I'm always afraid I'm going to say the wrong thing because I keep getting them confused.
That injury might have saved Reggie.
Yeah.
All right. Before we go, we're right at 2 hours. And Rika, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you guys for having me. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It was fun.
I appreciate Lambo, my internet went out the first 3 minutes and Rika completely carried the show talking about hard.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I had to completely mute myself and it was bad. Before we go,
I could see you the whole time though, so I didn't know that I was carrying the show. If I had known, I would have flipped out. I would have been sitting here staring at the camera, probably like a tear streaming.
No, you were doing
totally terrified.
Job. You were doing such a great job talking about Hard Knocks. You didn't even notice my mic was muted at the time.
No, I didn't even notice.
So before we go, everybody always talks about there's no way this guy clears waivers. But we know you're going to have upwards of 800 players in NFL in waivers at one time. So going back to the list, if you had to choose a guy from offense and defense that we have up here that you think we all think won't clear waivers, but there's a good chance they could, who's the guy on defense right now that you think we could possibly cut and he clear waivers to go to the practice squad?
Bradley and I.
Okay.
I was gonna say Anai or Carter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now last year, Anai never got cut, and Carter got picked up by the Colts.
You're right. He did go to the Colts.
But the Colts eventually cut him too, and we put him on their practice squad and we poached him. So, you guys both go to the defensive end spots and think one of those two guys.
Yeah, I think it's Bradley and I, just because the only really thing that anybody has to see from him is what he's done in this preseason, which hasn't been bad.
Yeah.
But he wasn't a standout like Carter, so I think he's going to get overlooked because Mike Nolan played the favorites game last year.
What about Hamilton? You think there's any chance he could slide through? Because he's played pretty good this preseason.
You know, that's kind of where I was leaning, because I don't think teams value nose tackles like they used to, and Hamilton's shaped like a box.
Yeah.
So he's not really one of those guys that kind of stands out that says, I got to have him on my team.
I feel like,
see, and I'm valuing him because I'm comparing him to Bohanna, but
I mean,
other teams aren't going to be comparing him to Bohanna the way that I am. So yeah, you could be really right about that.
I mean, I think both of them could get cut and clear waivers, honestly, but
they'll be the two best options for getting through to the practice squad.
If I had to choose between the two, I would far more likely keep Hamilton and take the chance on Bohanna, because Bohanna didn't show me he can two gap like Hamilton did in games. So I wouldn't want to take the chance. And Jeff says Anai or Hamilton as well. And Todd Corey saying thank you for your work. Man, thank you for joining us. Yeah, you gave some great comments. This is my first time seeing you, so I'm sure you're probably already a fan of Rika and you're tuning in to watch her. So thank you for joining us, and be sure to come back. Make sure you subscribe. All right, let's go to the offensive side before we go. Same thing. We got a bunch of guys up here. And I'm pretty sure we're probably all going to go to wide receiver or offensive line. Is there a player up here that people think there's no way he clears waivers, and there's a pretty good chance he probably will, and we're just kind of wearing our fan goggles a little bit?
I feel like, and it's probably the other way around with most people. I think most people would say Simi, but I'm going to say Malik Turner, I think, could clear waivers, even though he's played very well this preseason. Simi's a rookie, fifth round pick, 6'4", 220 something pounds. I mean, I feel like there's probably teams that still have him fresh on their mind from the draft process. And that's what would kind of make it click and make it harder for him to get through. That recency bias from teams that maybe were interested in him in the draft. So that's why I'm going to say Malik Turner would be my more likely to get through option.
I think so too, and the injury may turn people off of Turner. So yeah, Malik Turner. Okay.
Yeah, I think we're all on the same page then. I see Jeff says Turner or Steele. I just a right tackle with a year of experience, regardless of how bad we think he looks, with long arms and only 23, 22, there's no way he clears waivers. Somebody's taking a chance on that guy. But you never know. And Jack, with us three plus the guys at DCU, it should make for an interesting show. I'm interested to see how myself or Lambo get a word in. Because once Rika and Charlie get started, we're all gonna just be fans.
Once the fight is on. I do love me some Charlie Moffitt though, that crazy son of a bitch.
I gotta give you one of those bail sound effects now, Bo. Like on Terry Springer, whenever they get started, just hit it.
Yes.
Yeah. Definitely.
All right, before we go, I got to go back to this comment because Mendoza puts up an interesting one about the defensive side. He says Anai too, but he kind of feels right.
No. Oh, right. Mendoza, really?
Come on. I don't like it. And which is weird because I hated the pick.
Right. How
I
quick
almost
perceptions
always,
change.
yeah,
He's
I
a
did.
third.
I
He's
did
a
hate
third
the pick.
rounder. He's a third rounder. That's tough.
Mm.
That one would be very funny to watch on social media when you see everybody's comments in April and then he got cut in August and people in an uproar.
Yeah. Right.
That would be funny.
That's because he's shown a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I gotta admit, like Jeff said earlier, I feel like I was pretty wrong about the guy.
Yeah, I mean we all were.
Yes.
Yeah, there's
Yes,
not
Jeffrey
many.
Dunnigan. Cut Inseki outright.
Yeah.
Cut him. I'll cut him myself.
You know what? I could actually see him being one of those.
I mean, if Inseki needs
veteran-
like a ride to the airport or something, all he has to do is call me. I will help him find somewhere to go.
He's
That
got
is
the big money.
not.
He can call an Uber.
That's right.
Yeah, I could definitely see him being one of those practice squad guys who's just a veteran who gets cut and we just bring him and just let him sit there. So that's a good option, Jeff.
Mhm.
All right. We are at 2 hours and 10 minutes, Rika. One of our longest shows. So thank you
Yes.
for being entertaining and engaging and knowledgeable.
Thank you for having me.
And sharing all your input with us. So once again, before we let you go, let people know where they can find you at and your blogs.
You can find my blogs on my website. It's rikamovesthechains.com. You can find me on Twitter at Chains Moving, and I'm on Facebook too. And it's Rika Moves is the first name, The Chains is the last name.
Okay, so you just wrote a blog. Tell us a little bit about what that was about to let people know why they should go read it.
Last night I just, after Hard Knocks was over, and I was feeling it about Isaac Alarcon, so I sat down on my laptop and it was a real short one, real quick one. And I talked a lot about the International Pathways program and about Alarcon and what we can expect to see from him moving forward. That's out there. I also published my 53 roster list this last weekend.
Yeah.
And so that's there. It's a little bit different than what we talked about tonight, but I did drop it early. I wanted to get in there early. And but you know what? My whole catalog is there. You can scroll through and see everything I've written over the last 2 years. So, and I've written a lot of good stuff this summer, some good player profiles. If you're wondering about certain players, before the cuts next Tuesday, there's a pretty good little library there where you can take a read.
Yeah. So, Rika, do you normally write weekly, bi-weekly? Do you have a certain day that you drop stuff?
I write every week, usually on the weekends.
Okay.
And there's no set time or day when I do it, but I try to be at least consistent as far as the weekend goes, and then it just kind of rotates around work and family. But there's something definitely comes out every weekend. And when you go to the blog, you can actually sign up, put your email address in. You'll get an email notification every time a new blog drops.
I didn't know that.
Yes, or you can follow me on Twitter. I post all the links there. Also on Facebook in multiple groups. So I try to get it out as much as possible. You can even, if you're looking for one and you can't find it, if you're like, hey, how come there's no blog this week? Man, hit me in my DMs. I will link you. I promise. I need all the
her
clicks
DMs
I
about
can
the
get.
blog.
Yeah, only DMs about the blog.
Yeah.
I do not want to go on a date with you. Do not DM me about that. So yeah, I will get you a link if you want one.
Okay. Yeah, I got to go and put my email in. I didn't even know that was
Yeah, and during the season last year, I wrote twice a week. I wrote pregame and postgame.
Okay.
This year, I'm only going to write once because I'm going to be on with you guys every Saturday night pregaming it.
Yeah.
So I'll be writing postgame, so my blogs will start to drop early in the week, depending on when the game is, maybe Sunday night if it's an early game, Monday if it's a later game. And then you'll get my pregame thoughts live on YouTube Saturday nights at 8:00.
All right. That is definitely something you guys want to watch. And Rika, have you already started thinking about your blog for next week? Got any hints you can give us about what we can expect?
The blog for next week, probably, I'm definitely going to talk a little bit about Jacksonville. I'm going to touch more on the 53-man roster. If any players stand out to me in that Jacksonville game that I haven't already profiled, I'll definitely work on that. That seems to be kind of fan favorites, is when I take one player and really focus in on them. Skywalker mentioned it this morning when I was talking to him that he enjoys that too. They like the depth that I give and the history that I give. When I start talking about a player, I'll take you all the way back. I'll tell you about who he played for, in high school, and what his grades were in college, and what his grandma did for a living. I mean, I researched these guys. So I think my favorite blog that I've written recently, a couple weeks ago, was actually Law Nation had asked a question one day when I was watching him about the great defenses in NFL history and where were they before they were great? How did they build? And I thought, that's like really cool. I'm going to do some research on that. And I wrote a good blog about a lot of the good defenses, but
that's good. I remember that one.
Yeah, as I was writing though, and I started watching tape, and I was watching the 1985 Chicago Bears. And as I was watching those guys, and I was thinking back to Marcus, the conversation that we had in a DM, and we were looking at a play in the Hall of Fame game where Parsons was, on the screen. He was at the top of the screen, and we were trying to figure out what was he, what was he playing? Is he strong safety? Is he will? What's he doing up there? But as I was watching it, and at this point, I'd already watched the Arizona game, I'd already watched the Hall of Fame game, and I'm watching these 1985 Chicago Bears tapes. And guys, I would suggest that everybody go back and watch some of that, because I think, and I need to start watching the season to be sure, I think that Dan Quinn is drawing inspiration from that 46 defense.
Yeah.
It is blitz heavy, and the way that they're lining up, the offense doesn't know who's covering what gap. And I saw, it's not exact, but I saw a lot of similarities, a lot of comparisons there.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see how that works out.
That is nice. Definitely interesting. Yeah. And I was just about to highlight that one, Jeff.
On Cowboy Dale. That's a great idea.
The origin of
Cowboy Dale has only been in existence like 2 years though.
From parts unknown.
Yeah.
You can write a story about where.
Yeah, but Brandon, we can make up Cowboy Dale's backstory.
That's true.
Yeah, we're gonna do that. You know what, Jeffrey Dunnigan, I got you.
Yeah,
I got you. There will be a profile on Cowboy Dale coming your way. I promise.
Cowboy Zone exclusive. Get the backstory of Cowboy Dale, and maybe we can get Cowboy Dale to do a some type of video related to the backstory.
Yeah.
Yes.
Definitely.
All right, guys. Well, I think that's pretty much all we got. So before we go, Lambo, let the people know where they can find you at.
Will do. And before I do, I'd seen something that Bobby Belt said, and it made me kind of sad, but I thought I'd bring it up. 5 years ago today, Romo handed off to Zeke for the first and only time. Today, 5 years ago.
Cool.
Still love 9. All right. Y'all can hit me up at Cowboys Y'all Everything. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Patreon. Most important, though, is YouTube. Really trying to get the YouTube going. I'm at 620 subscribers. It's a long way to 1,000. Seems like it's going to take me the rest of my life to get there. So please hit up YouTube and give a subscribe. As the season progresses and starts, I'll start doing some funny Cowboy Dale videos on there. I usually wait till the season kicks off. And then that's usually when I start doing a lot of those videos. So go subscribe, and I appreciate it.
All right, guys. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Bluff City Cowboys. You can find me on Twitter at Bluff Cowboys. You can also find me on YouTube at Bluff City Cowboys. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't done so already. Make sure you hit that bell so that you can be involved and see all of our upcoming videos with myself and Lambo on the Cowboy Zone, as well as with Rika and the guys at DCU with the new podcast, Keeping Up with the Joneses, starting September 4th. Once again, I'm Marcus. This is Lambo. Rika, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll see you again on September 4th for our first episode of Keeping Up with the Joneses.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. If you haven't done so already, make sure you like, share, subscribe. Have a good night.
See y'all later.